Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Dead Pundits Society. We are in January. The January transfer market is in full swing. So today, Pablo and I will be discussing players that we believe certain clubs need to sign. And we'll be starting off with the Premier League. I'm thinking, for the sake of the table, maybe we start at the top and move our way down. We're not going to do all 20 teams, but we'll do some of the big ones or the ones that are in contention for Europe and for the title. So starting with Arsenal, you want to kick us off?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting season this year in the Premier League. I think the points total is actually lower than in seasons past, so there is a lot of opportunity for teams to capitalize, even though they might not have had the strongest start to the season. That being said, Arsenal is definitely one of the more solid teams that we've seen so far. For me, where I really see them lacking, and I know this is probably not coming as a surprise to anyone, I think their front line is lacking quite severely. Obviously, they signed Victor Gyökeres in the summer for big money. He hasn't really panned out. I mean, I did have him as one of my flops of the season, so I'm pretty happy about that right now. But I do think that they might need some firepower up front to get the job done. But I'm not sure if it makes sense to make a huge investment. So yeah, I think for now they just need kind of an experienced striker that can help them get over the line. And yeah, I mean, I think one that could be interesting. I mean, he is injured right now, so he might not be great for right now, but he'll be back in a month or two. Is for me, I think Artem Dovbyk is a good shout. So he plays for Roma, and last year he had an okay season. He scored about 17 goals in all comps. This year he hasn't really been playing so much because he's been A, injured, and B, fallen out of favor with Gasperini as our new coach. And so he'd be looking for a move potentially. I mean, I think it would kind of
Yeah,
be a case of failing upwards because he hasn't been very good for Roma. So then, going to somewhere like Arsenal doesn't maybe fit with that. But I do think that he could plug the hole that they have. I mean, what they want right now is someone that can score goals, ideally for a cut price, while they get someone like a Gyökeres more into form. So I think it would be potentially an interesting signing. I mean, kind of a bit controversial maybe, but that's
fair
my first
enough.
take for Arsenal.
Trying to offload one of your players is crazy work, but I get it. Um, I do agree fully with the front line thing. I did take it in a slightly different direction, even though, maybe Gyökeres hasn't had necessarily the GA output that would have been anticipated. I actually don't think that striker is a huge issue for them. I focused instead on something I've been talking about for a while now, which is signing another winger. I've been saying this for a while, and of course, like I don't I don't want Arsenal to do this because I don't want them to succeed. But for me, the glaringly obvious position is that left wing slot. I wrote down two names. They're both big names that would be expensive, but to be honest, I think they are exactly what Arsenal would need if they're trying to solidify their chances at competing in the title and competing in Champions League and whatnot. The first of which is one that I've spoken about before, and everyone knows that this has been a rumor, is Rodrigo. Rodrigo, in my opinion, I know he's played more right wing for Madrid, but I actually think he's best coming off the left. And I think he would really slot into that Arsenal team quite nicely. He brings a bit of star power, but at the same time, he's had quite a poor last couple months, and this season he's been very poor relative to his past seasons. So they could try and get him for a bit cheaper in that case, especially with how turbulent things are in Madrid. The other option I mentioned or thought of was Bradley Bakura. That would also be a very expensive one. But my thought is, it's another big proven winger. He's very athletic. He's got an eye for goal. He's unselfish, to be honest. Like he's not, someone who has that issue in PSG. And yeah, those were the directions I thought that would bring the most to their team, to be honest. But I hope they get neither of them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be kind of crazy if they were to not finish first at this point of the season, but I'm not too worried about that just because they do still have quite a solid squad and the teams below
Yeah.
don't really seem like they're able to go on such a long run. So I would say that's probably a good, yeah, they're in a good position for sure. What do you think about City? So City's second right now, albeit on goal
Yes.
difference with Villa. But who do you think they need? I mean, they've made two pretty huge signings
So
already in
that's
this
the thing.
window with Mark Gahey and yeah, Mark Gahey plugging the hole, Anton Semenyo as well up front to kind of counteract some of the people they have injured in their squad currently, namely at center back. What do you think? Do you think they need some more defensively or somewhere else?
To to be honest, it's a complete cop out. This one will be quick from me. They were the team that I wrote the least about of these Prem teams. Both Gehi and Semenyo are like perfect signings. I can't fault City at all for that. I think they have hit the nail on the head. Semenyo's already come out and gotten a goal for them. I think he brings a lot of depth and sort of new flair to their team. He's been great, well-deserved move. And then Gehi is rumored to be being sold for 20 million, which is an absolute joke. Like that's a great steal. He's been a team that multiple Premier League teams have been competing for. Chelsea, Liverpool, everyone wants him. And yeah, it's a cop out, but I say those two, they've already done it. I don't even know what else to recommend.
No, that's fair. I mean, I was looking at their injury situation. I do think they're still quite scant at center back, especially because the Kujanov, the guy they signed last year, hasn't really hit the heights that they probably expected of him by this point. This is maybe again a bit of a rogue shout because he has been injured quite a lot in the last couple seasons. But if I were Pep Guardiola, I'd sign Gleison Bremer from Juventus, like center back. He
Great
was
player.
rumored to go for around 60 million euros sometime last year to United actually at some point. Then he picked up an ACL. He's been injured a little bit this season, but since he's come back, Juve have been really solid. I mean, obviously it would be a tall order to convince Juve to sell such an important player mid-season, but I think if you go in with a pretty decent offer, you have a chance. I mean, most Italian clubs have some financial fair play issues, so with the right offer, they would kind of be forced to sell. And I think Bremer would be someone that would really fit the City mold of defender. So someone that's really fast, really physical, but also does have that little bit of technique that they need to, adapt to their playing style of playing out from the back under Pep. So I think that would be potentially quite an interesting signing for them. I mean, again, then when you do have the center backs coming back like Guardiola, like Stones, even though Guardiola's played at left back quite a lot, I think it could be a bit of a situation of overbooking in that area. But I think that would be potentially quite an interesting signing for them, and I think it could propel them to, if not the title, at least competing for it and making it something that goes to the last days of the season.
Yeah, that would be a great signing for them. He's very solid, good player. That would bring a lot of depth as well when they've had injury problems in that position, as you mentioned. Moving on to Aston Villa. I'm gonna kick us off here. First of all, Aston Villa, great club. We've spoken about them in our last video. They're, yeah, doing well. To be honest, don't count them out of the title race. I guess you never know. Depends how Europa goes as well. No, at this point, Arsenal will win, but I'm just coping. But for Aston Villa, I had one that I thought would be good, and then I landed on one that I thought was way better. And I think you'll be able to weigh in on this for sure. For me, the signing for them, honestly, would be Moise Kean. I know it's a bit like out of left field, but Moise Kean is a very good player, in my opinion. He's young, he's only 25, turning 26 this year. He's fast, he's agile, he's a proven goal scorer, and Fiorentina, as we've mentioned, have been off to a terrible start. This start, it's not even the start at this point. Over half of the season has been atrocious, and I think he's good enough to make it to a much bigger team. He could be playing regularly in Europe with Aston Villa. And they've had issues with depth at striker. That's the position they need, in my opinion. So, yeah, I would go all in on him if I were them.
No, that's a fair shout. I mean, Moise Kean, he does have experience playing in the Premier League. He had a very poor stint at Everton back in the day. And he's really found a second wind at Fiorentina after disappointing it as well at Juventus for a bit. I do think it will be hard to get him out of Florence just because they are fighting for their survival. And it seems like they might stay up at this point, but obviously with the right offer, I think it would be hard for them to hold on to him. The only thing is he's going to be expensive. Like he'll be at least in the region
Yeah.
of 50 million euros, I would say, something around that to get him out of Florence in the January transfer window. But obviously, Premier League clubs have the cash, even though Villa has notoriously had quite some issues with FFP in the last few years. But I mean, I definitely agree with you that they need a striker, given that they, sold Daniel Malin and again, Watkins has been a bit hit or miss this season, I think. Like he's not been as prolific as in previous seasons. Someone that I was thinking of, I had thought of someone that I thought was a good fit, but I thought of someone that would be even more interesting. So I think they should go ahead and sign Ayase Ueda. So he's a Japanese striker that plays for Feyenoord. And as of the time of recording, he has 18 goals in 18 games in the Eredivisie. Now, obviously, I know that the Eredivisie step up to other top five leagues is quite a big step up. But I think it would be a really exciting signing to bring to the Premier League. He's a young striker. I think he's in his early 20s. He's fast as well. Like I think he would adapt quite well to how the Premier League football is played. And I think he would be cheaper than Moise Kean. I mean, he has different characteristics. Ken is more of a physical specimen. Ueda is a bit smaller, but still quite agile and physical in his own way. So I would go for him if I were Villa. I think it'd be an exciting signing for the future as well, and it might be interesting to see how the team plays with him. What do you think of that?
Yeah, he was one of the players that I mentioned when I was talking about Japan and we were doing the World Cup predictions. I think Ueda's great. I spoke highly about him then. I'll maintain it now. I hadn't thought of that. It's an outside of the box shout, but he's very good. Yeah, would just be curious to see how that would translate to the Premier League, but I definitely think it could. So it's a it's a good one. Um, Next off, do you want to kick off straight into this or what do you
Yeah,
think?
yeah. So the next club is Liverpool, if I'm not mistaken. They're sitting
Yeah.
in fourth right now. So Liverpool, it's interesting because I think they
Yeah.
did a lot of business in the summer, but maybe not necessarily in the right places, right? Like they've been, they kind of stockpiled attacking players, but I think they let go the defensive part a little bit too much. Like they didn't really strengthen in that segment of the pitch. I mean, I know they signed Leone from Parma for quite a big fee, and it was very sad to see him tear his ACL just a few weeks into the season. He'll be one for the future for sure, as just 18 years old, but I think for now they need a center back, and the center back that I would suggest is actually Van Hecke from Brighton. So when I was doing some research, I saw this on a couple lists. Like I don't know too much about his game, not watching Brighton on that much of a regular basis, but I think he would be quite a good signing for them because he's a physical center back. He's quite fast. I think Liverpool have succeeded when signing from within the division as well, right? Like Van Dijk being a paramount example of that, signing a proven center back from within the Premier League and just letting them make that step up rather than having a center back that needs to then adapt to a whole new league, especially when you're signing in January. I think it's important to sign players that are able to give that contribution already in the current season. So I think he would be an interesting one because he also wouldn't cost too much. I think you'd probably get him for like 40 million pounds, which I know that sounds like a lot, but in this economy, it's not actually too bad for a center back. And yeah, I think it would be a good stopgap for now. I mean, obviously they were in for Gahey. They were pretty close to signing Gahey in August, but the deal kind of fell through at the 11th hour when Palace couldn't find a replacement and when Glasner threatened to resign even if the deal went through. But I think it would be a good signing for them to shore up that defense, hopefully consolidate that fourth position, and then next year maybe build from that and maybe push for the title, right? I mean, I think they might be losing Konate. It seemed like he has a principle of agreement with Real Madrid. We'll have to see if that ends up being confirmed or not. He's had a pretty poor season, so if I were Real Madrid, I'd be having second thoughts and potentially offering him a deal. But I think he would be a good one for Liverpool.
Yeah, that's interesting because I have Van Hecke on this list, but not for Liverpool, for another club that's coming up.
Oh
But
wow.
yeah, but so I'll speak more about him later, but I agree with a lot of the points you said. I think that would be a good signing. I went in a different direction in terms of leagues and players than you, though Van Hecke is also equally applicable. Maybe I didn't mention him because I want to save him for that other club. But the one that I thought of honestly was Gonzalo Inacio, who plays for Sporting. He's a very good center back. I've seen him play in Europe for Sporting. I think he's tall. He's strong. I think he fits the mold of that sort of center back that they need. And I think Liverpool are not going to be chucking cash maybe as freely as they were last summer. And I'm not saying
Yeah,
he's going to be cheap. I mean, he's young, but I think they might be able to get him at, maybe more of a discount than some of these other big players just because he's coming from the Portuguese league. But yeah, that was my thought. We both agree on the position. I think that's the one that's the most concerning for them at this point, for sure.
definitely. Yeah.
So yeah, leading off of that, going into Man United. Um, Man United, I was set on the position, and I'm been hesitating between two. One of the ones I'm hesitating towards is Baleba, who they've been rumored with actually, as bringing him into their midfield, and I think he'd be a very good signing. He's young, he's relatively proven. And the other one I was thinking of, who is also young and good, but might cost a bit more is Adam Wharton. So I definitely think that in any case, Man United need to address that position that they both fit into, in the midfield. But which direction of those two they go in, it depends. They're not extremely different players, but they're also, they offer different things. Obviously, I'd say Wharton's maybe a little more proven, whereas Baleba's, maybe a higher gamble, but Brighton players historically have been very solid, especially Brighton players playing CDM. Um, but yeah, those were my two thoughts.
No, that's interesting. I mean, I think for Man United, I definitely agree that midfield is one of the areas where they're a bit less strong. I think honestly, in attack, Man United is really a solid team right now. Like they
Yeah.
have really good attacking depth with Seshko, with Bruno Fernandes, with Cunha, with Mbeumo, and like other players even other than that. I think their defense is not bad, like especially their center back depth when everyone's fit, like Lenny Yoro, De
No, it's
Ligt, Maguire
Martinez. Yeah,
even.
yeah, yeah.
Martinez, like they're solid. So for me, the debate was either midfield or at fullbacks, and I actually chose to strengthen the fullbacks more. So the pick that I have is still within the Premier League. I think they should sign Michael Kayode from Brentford. So he
Okay.
actually, I know him quite well from when he used to be in Serie A because he played for a number of years for Fiorentina. He's really young. I think he's still 21, so he's quite young, very high potential. Signed for Brentford for about I want to say 20 million pounds a year and a half ago. I think he would be a solid signing for Man United because he's a very physical player. He's very fast. I mean, he's kind of in some ways a little bit similar to Dorgu in the way that he plays, like in his build and in his strength and ability to also create going forward. He has a very long throw as well. Like he's able to throw the ball about 40 meters sometimes even, which is pretty crazy and is also something that is valued highly, I think, in modern football, whereas maybe it wasn't as important like I don't know 20 years ago or so, except for when Roy Delap was doing it, of course. But I think he'd be a good addition. I mean, they have good fullback depth with, I mean, Dorgu depends on whether he plays at fullback, but he's been playing more up the pitch under Carrick. Delo, again, Delo's okay, but he doesn't really convince me. Like, I think they could definitely upgrade from a player like that. I mean, Coyote is more of a left back, but he can also play right back, so he's quite versatile in that sense. So I think that would be a solid signing. I would say right now it doesn't make sense for Man United to really go all out and make a huge signing, considering the fact that they don't know who their manager is going to be come the summer. So I would kind of do this as a stopgap. Hopefully they can use that to consolidate the top five and get into that Champions League spot and then take it from there for the summer. Now another club that is competing for the top five, top six positions is Chelsea as well. And I think both of us will probably agree on the position they need strengthening, at least from my point of view. It's quite obvious. I think they need a goalkeeper. I'm not a fan of Robert Sanchez at all. And I know that this is maybe not going to happen now because it seems like he's going to sign a new deal at his current club. If I were Chelsea's board, and I know that this breaks the rule of the ages, but I would go all out for Mike Maignan. I think Mike Maignan is a fantastic goalkeeper. I think he would be incredible at a club like Chelsea. I mean, he's obviously a starting goalkeeper for the French national team. I think he would help them really shore up that defense and not be as leaky and as unreliable at the back. And yeah, I think he'd be a great signing for them. Obviously, he would be maybe not as expensive for a transfer fee because he's running out his contract, but he would be on very expensive wages. I mean, there are rumors that he and Milan have agreed a deal right now, so that might not be on the table anymore. But if the deal isn't signed yet, I would do everything in my power to sign him.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I certainly would like Chelsea to sign a goalkeeper, but I did go a different direction with this, and I'll explain why. Um, I totally get the goalkeeper thing. That's been a question for seasons now. I've been complaining about it. And I think in the summer, I'd be happy for us to ideally go in on Mike Mignon and otherwise maybe land on another Mike, Mike Penders from Strasbourg, who's also very good, young player, super tall. But before I go into that, I do want to say Robert Sanchez has actually been pretty good this season. I think that either of these guys would be more interesting to me than Robert Sanchez, especially Mignon if we can get him. But he's made a huge step up from last season, which is part of the reason I didn't focus on that like at this moment in time. I figured give him the rest of the season, see if he continues his form. He's been actually pretty solid, with the exception of a couple dumb fouls. So I focused on another area that I think is almost desperate for Chelsea at this point, and I spoke to Pablo about this the other day, but I think we really need a center back. I think we really need a center back. I would have loved Gehi. Obviously, that can't happen anymore, but we've had serious issues with center backs getting injured. Obviously, Fofana was out for a long time, in and out of the squad due to injuries. We've had other injuries, but I've been so disappointed by our center backs performance wise, whether we're talking about Disasi or Benoit Badiashile. Colwell's actually been great, but he was injured. I'd like us to sign a proven, experienced center back. So the ones I wrote down are Van Hecke, who you were talking about. That's the where he comes up on my list for all the reasons that you mentioned, but also because he's a great progressor of the ball. He's got good ball distribution. He's a ball playing center back, so to speak, which I think fits our mold. He's 25, so I think that's young enough that he's got a lot of years left, but also old enough that he's, relatively experienced, which is a crazy thing to say, but it's Chelsea's squad. And on top of that, he has good Premier League experience. The other one I chose, and this one might be a bit harder, is Schlotterbeck from Dortmund. He's really good in my opinion. Has a lot of European experience, has gone far with Dortmund, and has been a mainstay in that Dortmund side for a while now. He's 26, so still relatively young, while also having experience. And yeah, I just think he would be great. I'd love to bring in a good quality center back, and I think he'd be better than any of our current center backs. So it would be a major upgrade for us.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Schlotterbeck definitely has that experience that you're lacking, I think, right now. He's been to Champions League finals. He's represented Germany at multiple tournaments already. So even being 26, he already has a lot of experience that would be useful for these younger guys in the Chelsea squad. I mean, that's also where I think Magnan would shine because he's someone that has that international experience. He's played in France, he's played in Italy. He's obviously playing for the national team right now, one of the best in the world. So I think, different directions, but also covering the same bases in a way. But yeah, I mean, I think these are some interesting conversations. I mean, interesting signings that can propel these clubs forward. I think especially, as I said at the beginning, in the case of Arsenal, I'm not as worried about them because I think also with the return of Kai Havertz and hopefully some of the players will start clicking, I think they will solve these issues that they have with goal scoring. But I think some of the other clubs really have an opportunity this year to cement their position in the Champions League spots, given that clubs are going a bit slower than they would in other years. And so I think these signings could really make the difference. So it's interesting to see which ones will materialize and which ones will not.
Yeah, and maybe none of them will materialize, You never know. But yeah, in any case, thank you guys for watching and please drop a comment, a like. We love to interact with your opinions. Let us know if we're missing any blatant players that should definitely be in these teams or on their radars. And otherwise, yeah, thank you for your support.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for watching. Let us know if you have any suggestions. We'll be making this a small series. We'll be looking at some other leagues, maybe the Serie A, potentially La Liga as well, seeing what these top clubs need to get over the line. And yeah, we'll see you on the next video.